It's time once again for another episode of the Buckhead Business Show. Being brought to you by the Buckhead Business Association. Broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now, here's your host for today's episode.
Hey, good morning, good morning. We're here at the Buckhead Business Show at the channel. It's a studio of the Pro Business Channel. We got Rich Casanova and Michael Moore bringing you the billion-dollar view as we overlook Buckhead today with this gorgeous weather for a beautiful fall day as you're finishing up. It's not winter yet, is it? It's awfully cold.
It definitely feels like it, yeah.
Well, I think we're people in Chicago.
Yeah, well, Chicago, Boston, and other parts wish they were here. Even the guys in Denver wish they were here today. So it's a nice day to finish up all your preparations for the holiday seasons. And boy, we're winding down this year. Could you believe it's already almost the end of the fourth quarter?
Hard to believe.
The clock is ticking down. Are we at 2-minute warning yet?
Yeah, I think we did, yeah.
I think we are. Well, we got some great guests in the studio today. Rich, as always, has gone out and combed the countryside. We got Phil Bush here today who's going to talk to us a little bit about sales, and we got Brooks Donner who's going to share a little bit about media. And boy, we roll into the new year. Media is going to be more and more and more and more and more and more and more important. So as we look at some ideas there, and we're looking up, scratching up next year's shows, the Buckhead Business Association is proud to be a part of this, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that during the break. But right now we're going to talk to Phil Bush to talk about getting your sales program and process for the year. Phil, how in the world did you get in this business of teaching salespeople to be a little bit more better?
That's a great question, Michael, and the answer is it's not because I always thought I was the best salesperson around. It's actually because I don't like to see people make all the mistakes that I made when I was selling. And that's an honest truth. I started out selling and I didn't really know what I was doing. Stayed in sales management for a long time. But about 12 years ago, I really got the idea of really focusing on helping sellers, helping sales managers. And I call it sales execution optimization.
Whoa, is there an initial for that? I don't know if I can handle that long word.
It's called the new SEO.
The new SEO, boy, that sounds like we're going to move right in the media here.
Ain't waste no time here.
Well, you won the flip, so go ahead.
All right, so Phil, is the new SEO, because you don't want to have people making the same mistakes you've made. Have you made a couple, or how'd that go again?
I've made a lot. I think in selling, I started out working for a Buckhead-based company back after college, and
do they sell stuff to deer heads or something?
No, they sell software, and they're still based here in Atlanta. And I basically made all the mistakes you could make, and I still made them. I got better, I like to believe, but a lot of what I have learned is not from being. Everyone likes to say when you teach it's because you can't sell. Well, I still sell because you got to sell. But my focus is really in this day and age of selling. It's really important to have a good process in place. Otherwise, you're not going to be very successful. You're just not. It's too difficult to sell, and buyers are so educated now about what you sell. The stats are that before they ever talk to you, they've done what they believe to be 70% of their research before they ever talk to you.
Well, they have so many options and so much research at their fingertips.
Exactly.
Mobile, right? In a nanosecond.
Absolutely. Right, yeah. The internet changed the sales game forever.
Right.
Because now the information's out there available, and the seller thinks, oh, well, I'm the expert on my product or service. Well, I'm not saying you're not, but the customer believes they already are.
Perception, yeah. 2 words, Google it.
Right. They will make those expensive mistakes, so they think they need to be smarter.
Yes,
faster.
That's correct.
So how do you kind of overcome that, or what's kind of the upside to that?
Well, what you have to do as a seller in this day and age is you've got to be better prepared than ever for a sales call. And you've got to have really focused, not just on, I'm not saying every seller doesn't know their product or service. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say they do. But a seller has to understand their customer. Not just why they're interested in my product or service, but what that customer is trying to accomplish.
Beyond customer relations, that comes later, it's customer research.
It is customer research.
Yeah.
There's 3 parts of any good sales process. There's relationship management, roadmap to revenue, and customer success. And if you don't have all 3 of those boxes checked, you're going to have trouble along the way. You just are.
Talk to us about the roadmap.
The roadmap says that you're not in sales just to go and make calls. People think, oh, my job is I go and make calls. That's
Just a
not your
numbers
job.
game, yeah. Just to make more calls, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and this, what's interesting is I'm not saying that's not part of it, but the buyer has to understand that your seller is not there just to show up and make presentations or have conversations. They're there to make progress on a sales cycle, a sales process.
Well, they wouldn't be calling you unless they have a need. So, you need to be moving that needle literally each time you engage in the fundraising business. There's no neutral.
You're right.
You either improve or lose
fall
position.
behind.
That's right, because the objective is to make most people, as we say in a jokingly way, have the check. You want one to exchange it for the other and one to get true value.
You're right.
While the other one is able to acquire a new customer, solve a new problem, or move on.
Absolutely true, Michael. Well said. I agree 100%.
Now, how did you get into this business? You said you started in Buckhead, but gosh, what made you want to be a salesman when you grew up?
That's a great question, and the answer was nothing. Now, let's be honest here, folks in the room and on the air. When you were in high school, when you went to college, those of you who did you ever think, oh, I'm going to go into sales? And the answer, if you're being truthful, honestly, is probably no. Most people, if you're being truthful, don't say, I started out wanting to be in sales. How many people end up? Just about everybody. Everybody sells something.
Well, school teachers are a great example of that.
Yeah, that's a great point. They're selling all the time.
But everybody does not want to be a life insurance salesman, right?
No, they don't.
Raise your hands on that.
I got into business because I was with a long-time Atlanta-based software company, American Software, still based here in Buckhead. And I began selling for them. They now have a spinoff called Logility, still based here. But I sold all over the country. And actually now I have worked in 22 countries around the world selling. So I've sold a lot of places, done a lot of things. Buckhead, Brookhaven, still my home. Yep. But I got into it, and then when I got into the idea of helping sellers, it was because I said, well, I can keep selling, but it seems like a better use of my time to take sellers, whether they feel like they're good or bad now, and give them ideas.
22 countries. I mean, how many languages do you speak? Or how many issues of Rosetta Stone do you have?
Unfortunately, that second question is the proper one, because I don't speak any other languages. I just never really got languages, but I have used Rosetta Stone and other tools like it a lot to be able to navigate.
So what I'm hearing is these obviously are universal principles. If you don't even speak their language, right? How do you make a transaction take place?
It's a great question, and what I've actually found is selling is universal, and relationships are universal. Now, the way we go about doing it in this day and age is a little different, and part of it is because we are now in the age of social selling. Social selling is critical. Using social media tools is critical to being successful. If you're not using them, sellers, you're falling behind. I promise you.
Oh boy, you're just queuing Brooks up here. That's right.
I know.
Salivating. Don't get to that. I knew the break where he's going to be racing for the finish line.
I know. But I know Brooks was here, so I don't want to steal his thunder. But I know he's here and talking about a topic we talk about a lot in sales.
Well, you've got an interesting thing. Part of your moniker is daily sales thoughts. So,
yes.
You obviously are a trainer. Your heart's in the educational process, and I love your original lead-in where you said, I just don't want to see those people make the same mistakes over and over and over again that I made.
Yeah.
So, daily sales thoughts. Tell us how you came to this idea of putting out news and information, because that really falls right into the social media arena of educating people and staying in touch with them, which is one of the things about relationships. So, talk a little bit about that, if you will.
I did, and it's a blog called Sales Thoughts, and Daily Sales Thoughts is the blog name, as you said, Michael.
I said dailysalesthoughts.com.
Yes, that's right.
Right there on the web.
That's right. Well, interestingly enough, that came about from a near-death experience I had.
Oops.
About 5.5 years ago, I suffered traumatic brain injury. And I had to come back from that. And when you come back from traumatic brain injury, it's not easy. It's very difficult, and it takes a long time. But what was interesting is the first part of my brain that kind of recovered was my business stuff.
Cool.
Everything else was still being worked on by the wonderful people at Shepherd. And folks, if you ever want to give to a cause, I can tell you the Shepherd Center is a miraculous place because they have to deal with people every day. And like I said, when any of us have been in the hospital for anything, and the first question we ask is, well, how long will I be there? Shepherd's answer every day is the same to every patient and family. We don't know, because traumatic brain injury is different for every person. I was there for some time, but one of my friends, a great friend of mine, another Atlanta-based guy named Brett Boston, he said, start writing down what you think about when it comes to sales. That became Sales Thoughts. And I kept it up, and it had been going on for a long time now. And it was just about thinking of, oh, well, I did that in selling, and don't do that. I did that in selling. Don't do that either. And Brett said, hey, and after a while, we came up with enough content for a book, which we published about 1.5 years ago, called Sales Thoughts. And that came the book, the blog, and now the radio show that I have. But it was a very interesting process because you always think about things that you did and go, God, I wouldn't do that again.
Right.
That cost me a lot of money. I wouldn't do that again.
That was an expensive lesson. Which I need not
Exactly.
repeat.
Oh, Michael, you are so right, because you're going, oh, why did I do that?
Right.
So I think back to previous sales cycles and go, no, don't do that. And I coach a lot of sellers, young sellers and experienced sellers. And it's interesting because the experienced sellers are very interesting because they go, well, you know what I used to do worked really well. And I say, look, I'm not saying you can't sell now, but your process has got to evolve and morph with the times. And we're almost in the year 2017, and you've got to be selling with 2017 principles. Because if you're not, you're going to fall behind, and you're going to lose to somebody who's selling.
That's right.
Well said. Just reminding our listeners, you're listening to the Buckhead Business Show, being brought to you by the Buckhead Business Association, with your host, Michael Moore, and sidekick Rich Casanova here.
The Mike and Rich show.
I like that.
I like that.
It has a nice flow to it.
Yeah. So, so we know how to reach out to Phil Bush. That's just dailysalesthoughts.com.
Mm-hmm.
So, Michael, if you want to introduce welcome our next guest to the show.
I am going to do that, but we have just keyed up the stage. We are now on the high dive board. We are now taking the running start. We have gone through the pace car mode. Phil, thank you for driving us. You may slide off the track now. And we're going to go to Brooks Donner, who is going to tell us what that SEO really means and why he's in the process of helping poor sales guys like you stay in touch a little better.
Yeah.
So, Brooks, the stage is yours, bud.
Thank you, Michael and Rich. It's great to be here. My company, TopLine Media Group, is involved with digital consulting and implementation. So we help companies, businesses, individuals, organizations with their website presence. So what I always like to start with is talking about businesses and how they use the web. You have to start with basics. It's surprising that there's so many businesses out there, at least in this day and age, that they've already gone through 1 or 2 or 3 rounds of vendors. And of course, for a website, you need a hosting plan and you need a domain name where people can find you out there. You also have other assets involved with all the files on the server for hosting. So it surprises me, but it's a fact of life that a lot of companies out there have their hosting account in one place, they have their domain name in another place, and you have to treat these things like business assets. They are property of your business, and you have to protect them. So the first thing that usually happens when I go in with companies is we have to clean things up. They have different social profiles that were set up through different vendors. Again, they're hosting in their domain name. They don't even know where they're at. So we clean everything up, get everything under control, and then we go from there. We look at the business. But the first fundamental thing, and make sure your base is there with all of these business assets that help you have a website presence.
Well, it sounds like to me your step one is always a complete and thorough inventory, and then you get to make a plan. So people have Twitter, people have Instagram, people have Snapchat, people have LinkedIn, people have a website. Oh, website, that's the last thing, but that's the first thing you talked about. So how do we integrate all the things that are going on in our digital world of confusion today?
That's exactly what's going on today.
Oh, digital confusion? Okay. Hey,
That's our new website.
Yes.
Digital confusion. digitalconfusion.com. Yeah.
Check. You're good at those website handles. Check it out. Digital Confusion. See if that's available.
You'll get some malware off of there if you go to that site. Integration is key. It's kind of the evolution of where we're coming to, where we're going to. And it started off with a website, and the whole mentality of build it and they will come
Oh my goodness!
kind
Look out.
of collapsed, because they think, oh, well, we'll put up a website and now we can be reached anywhere in the world and we can sell our products or services anywhere in the world. It just didn't happen. So you really have to get out there and do the right things when it comes to marketing and advertising. And that's where the integration comes into place. There are three major areas, really. SEO, a little bit different than Phil's, but stands for search engine optimization, and that's the strategy of tactics to index your web pages on your site in the search engines like Google. Second thing is search engine marketing, SEM, which is also known as pay-per-click. That's when you run ads, for example, on a search engine results page on Google. You've got two different types of results. You've got the results up top, which are actually paid ads. That falls into SEM, or pay-per-click, PPC. We call it paid search. And then you have the results down the middle of the page, lower down. Those are the natural or organic listings that fall under SEO, search engine optimization. So you've got SEO, you've got SEM, or PPC, and then the third component is social. And that's really where a lot of companies are making the move now. It's the evolution that we've been seeing and that will continue to evolve as we move forward. But social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, they are so powerful because they give businesses the ability to target. So you have two ways to operate on social media. One is you post up and you add content to your social profiles and develop a following. People who see you, they're interested in your business. Somehow they've gotten to your page on Facebook, for example, and they follow your business. The second way is to advertise on these social platforms, and this is where the ability to target consumers, different demographics, is off the charts. There's something called big data. These companies who follow consumers around at the point of sale, in the financial system, the banking system, and elsewhere, and they have information about different individuals, different consumers, what they've purchased, what they've signed up for, what they've applied for. So you kind of get a profile. Well, this big data costs a lot of money, and it really wasn't available to smaller businesses.
It's kind of a new creation, and I want to ask you in a minute
Yeah,
about programming and planning some of those costs, because those become very expensive for businesses. But the data, if you're targeting someone and trying to be very niche oriented, then you can't afford to be just throwing your bread on the water for the ducks. How's that going?
Well, I don't think it goes. Yeah, I just made that one up. Yeah.
Big data has evolved, and a platform like Facebook, for example, has partnered with big data, Polk, Axion, and you can now access the data that larger companies were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars on, and have that data within your dashboard on Facebook. So not only your organic posts and the content that you put up there, but also setting up an ad account and being able to target people who are interested in your product or service. And the demographics, the interests, the past behavior is almost unlimited, and you can really target your target audience down, and you can also segment and sell into different niches. Phil, you have something to add?
Yeah, I was going to say, big data is the evolution of analytics, and analytics is everywhere. And so I worked for a big data company for a time, doing some sales coaching for them. But big data, Brooks is so right. It's everywhere, and analytics was where it started, and now it's into big data. And everybody is using big data, whatever size company you are. It's a critical part of the sales process.
I heard that big data being analyzed is kind of like looking at the intersection and seeing how many cars are coming in the intersection, turning left, right, or going straight. It seems to put it in perspective for people, but it's still very expensive and very time consuming, not only from the dollars you have to invest, but from the people horsepower to put it to your business. So talk a little bit about some client experiences for a few minutes or a few seconds here, whatever you want to do, about some of the, I guess we'll call them success and failure stories of people who've gone off down the wrong turn at that intersection.
Absolutely. I've got one client in ad tech. They're involved in the automotive industry. And again, they're using LinkedIn. They're using Facebook. They are advertising, they're B2B, and they're advertising to automotive dealers, people who own automotive dealerships. They're also advertising to associations. So they're trying to get dealerships to incorporate or adopt their ad tech software to improve sales, to increase sales. So B2B, although you wouldn't think on Facebook it would be possible, it's still possible because we are all people and we're all involved with our hobbies, we're all involved with our professions, and we like to share that information. So you get access to that type of data even on a social platform like Facebook. Now LinkedIn, even more so, when it comes to B2B, you can reach out and target profiles, different industries, different segments.
Keyword search, as you said, becomes very valuable. We all exercise that when we look at their high school alumni or our college alumni, or who worked in American software, or who was at Facebook, or wherever or who grew up in Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, wherever. You can do all those things. And as you said, as Phil said, it's analytics. We can do it mentally ourselves, but boy, isn't it nicer to have the algorithms, is that the other fancy word?
Exactly.
The algorithms figured out for us and presented on a dashboard.
And let me tell you, these platforms will make it easy for you to utilize. I mean, that's their bread and butter. That's how they make money. So they've developed platforms where you can really tap into the analytics and the data and turn that into an ad campaign